waiting for all the participants to slowly join in and
Right.
how things go. Maybe I will leave on the little waiting music in the meantime.
Go for it.
Waiting for some participants to come in. Maybe we give it until 7:05 and start the introduction. Okay. Let's begin.
Nice. So, welcome everybody.
Probably some people will still
drop in as we start, but it's good to get things rolling. My name is Marie.
I'm Arvid.
And today we're gonna walk together through a little process to conceptualize fictional autonomous machines. So right now in the chat of Zoom, we are going to share with you a link towards it's not always collaborative. Well, anyway, it's not for right now, but we are sharing with you a link that brings you towards a collaborative online whiteboard. It's puts in very big that you have to register, but you do not have to if you don't want to. We're also sending you a picture to show you where you can click. So at the very bottom of the page, it says enter as a guest. So that's how you can connect to the board without registering. We're not going to use it immediately, but a little bit later we'll prompt you when we can use that to work together. So we'll come back to that in a moment. But first we're going to introduce a little bit the topic. So we're Arvid and Marie. We're artist and design duo since about 2015. We're very thankful and happy to join the Overkill Festival because we find it's an amazing place to share a lot of ideas, experiment with a lot of stuff. So here's our contribution. At any time when you want to ask questions, unmute yourself, shoot. It's about more having a conversation than just us talking anyway. So our work, we like to qualify it of performative installations. It's very often interactive. Even if it's just an object, it often has this performative quality. And we also have a music act that often drives our desire towards interaction and performance. So that's to tell you a little bit about ourselves. But today we are focusing on a specific project of ourselves that's called the Bestiary of Autonomous Machines.
And it's a project that also links together some other projects that we've done, so they'll come back in here as well in the workshop.
So the Bestiary of Autonomous Machine is something we started that has been going on for about 2 years, I would say. It's always been really based on workshops, so we like to call it a collaborative research. We've tried to give workshops in very varied groups, different age groups, different areas. We've been to Turkey, we've been to the US, we've done, of course, a bunch in the Netherlands. And during those workshops, we encourage people to think of their own idea of an autonomous machine. And eventually, we gather a few of the outcomes into a bestiary. So it's sort of an archive where we mix together some of the ideas that came up within the workshop, so some fictional machines. We also, you see the big picture on the right is, for example, an idea from a little boy of 7 years old. And we also mix in this bestiary some existing machine. You can see Curiosity, the Mars rover, as well as it was for a long time also open as an open call to send in your ideas. So there's also some prototypes or speculations by other artists, creatives, makers that are in the mix. So much like the medieval bestiary of back in the days, where, you know, like the monkeys were mixed with unicorns and with rhinoceros and also with cows and so on. It's a mix between fiction and reality, but we like to use this as a way to explore different views of autonomous machines. So the idea that not only big tech corporations should explore this future, but we should democratize this process a little bit more. Right, so of course the obvious question to think of autonomous machines, if we really want to think of them as autonomous beings, is how can we put ourselves in the place of another being? And that's a very difficult thing to do. To give you an example of that, I would like to read you an entry of the bestiary, which is actually a real existing machine. But the writer of the description has reinterpreted how this machine feels in its role. So the description is very fictional, but I think it's a good example of how we can take the place of the machine, the perspective of the machine. So let me read you. Voyager 1. Material, metal, and solar panels. Dimensions 3.7 meters. Habitat space. The Voyager 1 is seen as an icon in the world of robotic explorers. Its commitment and dedication is unmatched by any man-made adventurer in history. Launched by the NASA on September 5, 1977, it continues to go where no creation has gone before, carrying with it the curiosity of its makers, 21,289 billion kilometers back on Earth. Having left 41 years ago and at such a distance, a human mind would have been wandering far off topic. And an emotional distance would lead to a sense of indifference. But not Voyager 1. It continues as a steadfast team member of NASA, checking in with the Deep Space Network to receive routine commands and return data, even though its original makers and programmers have long since left the space agency. The simple programming of Voyager 1 has made it single-minded. While its efficient radioisotope thermoelectric propulsion generators have given it a sense of endurance. It was not told these generators would stop in 2025 and will no longer be able to operate its scientific instruments. The scientists believe that these qualities make it the perfect emblem for the determination of humankind to venture to new frontiers. But in reality, Voyager 1 possesses qualities that humans can only wish to embody. In its selfless one-way mission, it goes beyond ideas of determination, achievement, or conquest, as there is no reward or celebration for the valuable data it sends back to the researchers on Earth. When the Voyager 1 became the first spacecraft to cross the heliopause and enter the interstellar medium in 2012, this first step for robotkind was taken with humility, knowing it was not just the first, but perhaps the only entity to ever reach the new galaxy that began to unfold before it. So that was an example of slowly going towards trying to understand how this entity feels, how crossing the step felt.
Also, what is the experience of such an entity outside of human feelings? What are maybe parts of our own feelings that can be mirrored within such a different
entity.
And
what are not relevant. Right. So first of all, is there any questions so far? I will prompt you once in a while just to keep in check. Yeah, okay, I see everybody's ready to move on. So before we dive into the whole machine thing, we want to challenge you to consider first to empathize with other organisms. So other life forms. Let's first make it something that is still close to human beings. So we want to first show you a work that we did to guide a little bit this, and then we're going to start working together. So other organism, like what? For us, it was pigs. Pigs are not actually very far from humans. They're actually used a lot in research because their skin is very similar to humans.
And their organs.
And their organs. But in this project that we were doing with a farmer in the Netherlands, a pig farmer, we needed to design an object for the pigs. And in order to do that, we needed to very intimately understand how these pigs understand their world and how do they react with it.
Exactly, because we wanted to design an object for pigs. We did not want to design an object for the pig farmer.
Yeah. And so the first thing we did was looking into scientific research, of course, like what do we actually know? What have we theoretically researched? And it's really small, the research that has been done. especially away from animals that are very close to us. There's a lot of research on dogs, on monkeys, on cats. There's very little research on farm animals, for example. Or, well, let's say there's a lot of research on farm animals, but really directed towards meat production, milk production, how to make them more productive. And not so much how they understand the world and so on.
Also, there's the parallel that in human psychology, there's a lot of research about well-being and meaning and how do we have better lives, but the psychology of animals rather goes to how do we fit more animals of this type in the same space without them starting to bite each other, and you know, like it's a very different angle to the
very
research.
practical, you could say. So, but still, yeah, but also, for example, I read the first sentence of the abstract. They don't talk about pigs, they talk about pork, which is more like the matter of pigs. It's a different way to look at it. But in any case, out of this scientific research, there was still a lot interesting things for us to understand. For example, pigs do not see very well. They have a very small range of vision. So in that way, we are very different from them because we rely mostly on our sense of vision. However, the hearing sense of pigs and humans is extremely similar. We're nearly on the exact same spectrum. So we hear the same things. We experience a very similar sonoric world. Now, that doesn't mean that we enjoy the same things in sound.
But what is maybe less easy for us to understand, of course, it's easier, like, oh yeah, they see a bit less than us, but pigs have an extremely more developed sense of smell, which is much harder for us to conceptualize what it is to explore the world through smell and to have that as one of, like, maybe
one of your primary senses. Yeah. So that's, for example, some things that you can figure out through a theoretical research. But the theoretical research was not enough, and we couldn't fully grasp. We couldn't manage to design anything. So then we decided to switch to a practical research, and we designed some tools in order to be able to spend a day as a pig in the farm. And there was quite a wild experiment where a lot of things happen, and that's totally unscientific. It's very empiric, but we gathered a lot of information through this that was much more about empathizing with their position. The simple fact of being on a similar eye level really changed the whole perspective of how they perceive the farm. For us standing human beings, when we're in the farm, we're able to see all the different pigs that are all next to each other in different booths. But from their point of view, they hear everything, but they do not see anybody else. That's a very, I mean, any other pigs.
Yeah. And especially the way why it is like that is that from the human perspective, it's like, oh, the social group of the pigs is maximum 20 pigs in a group. So we put them all together in a group of 20 in one area. But what the humans don't realize is that for the pigs, the sounds and the smells are more of a primary sense. And for them, being in a hall with hundreds of other pigs, they still experience all of those pigs there. So they're still in a hyper concentrated, hyper dense area, even though this farm that we're talking about is seen as a welfare farm, which is
much better than industrial farming, but still you could have a lot of criticism about it. So in any case, that's how we gathered the other half of our knowledge about the pigs. And from that, we designed an instrument, so a musical instrument. And our goal in this was both to make an object that could become a witness of how they understand the world. So the, humans looking at this object could maybe have a different or have a little example of what means an instrument for a pig. And of course, it was for us very interesting to research their interest in music, their interest in sound, whether they would develop the musical culture. So we tried with different groups, different age of pigs, different social groups. And that's a whole different thing, but keeping focus on looking at their perspective was, of course, another great experiment for us to see then how they would react and interact with something then that we made, trying to keep their perspective in mind. So this is an example of taking the position of another being. And now we're gonna hand it over to you guys for a little exercise. So maybe now everybody can unmute themselves. Could you all go towards the link that is in the chat on the whiteboard? We have a little page where it's written hello and welcome. I see Jesper, I see Carla. Is anybody having trouble with it? All right, guys. Okay, so what we're gonna ask you, nice arrow. We're gonna ask you to come up with one other organism that you would like to think about.
Especially an organism that's close to humans. That's either a part of our lives or
something that you're interested in, or pick one thing. So for example, and then you can use this, like there's like a kind of little post-it thing at the bottom. You can make your own thing. Or for example, that's very big. I'll, for example, do pigs.
So are we talking animals or anything?
Anything. You could also choose the coronavirus, for example. Although technically a virus is not a form of life. So let me see. Oh. So we have, yeah, nice that you put it in the middle.
Yeah.
Watermelon plants. Mushroom. Carla, are you still thinking about it? Or we're just waiting for the... We're maybe just waiting that it loads? All right, and now... Oh yeah, it's a bit of a clunky thing, don't worry about it. You can also tell us if you unmute yourself. This is also a little tutorial to get used to this board, but... Nice, so for portobello mushrooms, let's get very precise, yeah.
What? What whiteboard?
You have to mention that you're here.
Let's see. Let's see, I'm here.
We can hear you guys, by the way. Hey, yo.
Hi.
Pelican. Okay, all right, everybody has there. And now we would like you to write something that's of this particular life form that you can relate with. So for example, in the example of the pig, I told you I could relate with their hearing sense because we share the same. But you could also say, the pigs and me, we both have 4 limbs, for example. So just pick something. It can be very abstract. It can be very concrete.
Right.
Dan ben jij hier klaar?
Nee.
Nou, zal ik zorgen dat ik nog zelf tijd...
Ja,
Is jou already in?
Camera.
I don't know. I think I can't imagine. I just follow.
Guys, can we ask you to mute yourself?
We can also mute everyone, I think.
I don't think
no,
we
we
can
cannot.
mute them. Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice. So the watermelon plants can relate to the weather and the landscape, and so can Guy. Guy, do I pronounce it correctly? Or is it Guy or Guy? Yeah. French, English. Yeah, sounds good. The mushroom, I cannot read it yet somehow, but
Still updating.
it's still updating.
It says presence.
Presence.
Yes.
What do you mean by that exactly?
That it's here. That's all I can relate to with a mushroom.
Right, like contrary to a black hole or something.
Yes. A subconsciousness.
Right. Okay. We're still being updated on Carla, but in the meantime, I will tell you the next thing. Try to think of something you really cannot relate with of this animal or life form. So for the pig, I told you the example of the smell. The pelican needs water, just like human beings, indeed. Can you also see properly each other's participations? Yeah, okay, that's good. Nice. So Jesper, what did you write for your what you cannot relate with, the spores? Oh, you're unmuted.
Yes. I think the spores are kind of hard to to conceptualize as a human.
Maybe it's a little bit like when you sneeze.
Yeah.
You spread.
But then it makes babies.
So it's more like a virus then.
Yeah. So sometimes something that you cannot understand. Also, the watermelon plants, you wrote shape and stability. I also can imagine, yeah, the fact of not moving, like being rooted in one place.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Stability, or maybe, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. Right. And watermelon, it's pelican, sorry, it's still updating for us. That's.
Yeah, I think you have to go to move out of your note.
Oh yeah, if you click out of your post-it, if you click in the. Hey, here we go. Thanks. Catching prey. You never hunted before? Yeah, indeed. That's it's interesting because it's not only a state, like stability is maybe a state, but catching prey is also an action. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I can say being eaten.
Yeah, also. Yeah, being eaten. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, that's a very good one. Cannot relate to yet. Maybe it will happen in the future when we rot. But
also for the watermelon, I can imagine that it's one plant that makes this big watermelon as a fruit. So the plant itself is not being eaten, but it creates something to spread its offspring, I guess.
Yeah, that's also a very weird idea.
Yeah.
Well,
What?
so it's good to be.
That
The fruit is meant to be eaten so that the seeds propagate, right?
Yeah.
It's also very strange. Like we are
no, it's
definitely
not meant to be eaten, it's meant to distribute itself, I guess.
Right.
We are hacking on its distribution. Yeah.
There's the point of view also that many domesticated plants also domesticate us in a sense by making fruits that are so delicious that we spread this plant much further than they would have if it would
was
be
not
just,
farmed.
yeah, so they're kind of making use of our logistic systems to spread themselves also in the upside down view.
Right. So let's go back to the presentation. So that's a little exercise also to get you used to the, we are going to continue to use the board right after. Can we go back to the other thing? All right, so now let's try to, oh yeah, one thing in common. Let's try to consider machines. Machines is very tricky to empathize with or to try to understand because it's even further removed from us than the weirdest life form, because theoretically it's not alive. And we're going to show you another work we did to give you a bit an example of how we tried to understand a machine. And in this particular case, we're talking about the recommendation algorithm of an e-commerce platform. So this is Alibaba. Can you raise your hand if you've never heard of Alibaba before? Everybody has heard of Alibaba. Right, so giant Chinese e-commerce platform, equivalent, I guess, of Amazon. It's good to know that it's especially set up so that Chinese sellers sell to other countries, and very often in big scale. And we were working on exploring Alibaba and trying to study the algorithm like a naturalist would. So looking at it in terms of its behavior, as if we're observing a new species in the forest and trying to understand how does it behave, how is it different from other similar species, and so on. And so one of the first things we did is just, search for some products. And here you see our search results for bed. So we're just looking for the word bed, nothing else. And these are the kind of results that we get. And we were very surprised by it because it's very different than the results you get on Amazon. When you search for beds on Amazon, I should have included a picture, sorry. But you get basically what you would buy, like a very basic single bed or very basic double bed. Let's try it right now. Like something you'd probably be buying than a weird stool, than pants. That's all physiological indeed. But like this first result is a very classic form of bed, right? Well, yeah, this is what Alibaba gives us, right? So
like the superlative of bed.
The superlative of
like
bed. But also something you're totally not going to buy if you're looking for a bed, right? Or maybe maybe you wish, right? But it's very unlikely you're buying this product instantly. So we see two very different strategies from these two algorithms. The Amazon algorithm is giving you immediately what you want, so you make a buy as soon as possible. Well, this algorithm gives you this just very random, the weirdest possible product.
Also, you actually saw on Amazon that first it gives you the thing that you actually search for, and then afterwards it gave you some sort of cheaper things that you might also buy that are very related, which is different than in the AliExpress, Taobao, Alibaba. It goes more and more wild.
It goes more crazy the more you scroll. So anyway, why is this behavior from the algorithm? Why does it make this specific strategy? Because we know that both algorithms, or any recommendation algorithm, basically wants you to generate a lot of money for the company. We know that's the ultimate goal, but they all make different strategies to achieve this goal. And so the Alibaba algorithm, after a lot of research, we figured out it's not trying to make the most buys directly. It's trying to make the most clicks. So it's showing you all these sort of clickbait products. So you're gonna, I'm gonna send you this link and say, wow, check this out, what's being for sale on Alibaba. And you go to Alibaba as well. Then you click on more things. You become familiar with the platform. Next time you want to buy something, it was entertaining, you had a good time, you're going to return. So they have a more like going around strategy, but they're hoping that in this way, you get to buy more things. And so our work, we made this big paper models of these objects. Here you see like a view we took of each category of product in Alibaba the most recommended object. So we have the category of interior, that's the beds. We have the category of shoes, that's the fish sandals in France.
Women's fashion.
Women's fashion, there's this bra on the left in pink.
Not just a bra, it's a heated bra.
It's not just a bra. Well, all these very strange products. And what was interesting for us is to only make these models out of the information that is known by the algorithm. So you see that there's only images on certain sides of the model because the algorithm doesn't have all images of every angle of the object. It only understands it through a few angles. And what is in the dead angles, let's say, is the text that is also very important for the algorithm. What is the feedback of the company? That is very important for the algorithm to choose who it's going to put forward. What is the name of the company? What is the description? Did they fill in the dimensions properly? So these models are also exactly according to the dimensions that are listed on the website. And very important, the price as well. And something we were really intrigued about, what you can see in this box here, is that most of these objects have a lot of wish lists, but they're never bought. Nobody's ordering this stuff, which, you know, participated in our theory that these are just clickbait objects, you know, meant to get you to be on the platform for a longer time and to do more clicks. And eventually we also had this fantasy. We thought, do any of these things exist, right? Like maybe they're just, because all these images are 3D renders. None of them are actual images of the product. And we searched the entire web for an image of this bed, like a real photography of this bed. And we could never find it, although there's so many 3D model images. So at some point we made the supposition, maybe none of these objects exist. They're just, you know, like data to get people interested, and what people actually buy is a completely different category. And eventually we traveled to China and we found nearly all of those things. So that was completely wrong assumption. But basically this is how, for the algorithm, it makes no difference. Is the object real? Is it just a 3D model? It really doesn't matter. What matters is what is the information, how many times are people clicking. So that was a little bit our looking at the behavior, comparing with other similar algorithm, our way to try to understand how this machine works. It was especially hard because these kind of algorithms are patented and protected, and they're, you know, the intellectual property of the company. So you especially cannot get into the code. You know, you're never going to find this code online somewhere that you can just look how it's actually made. So we had to observe it from a distance to understand it. So let's now give it back to you. Considering machines, I'm going to prepare the board a little bit. That would be interesting. So we're going to clear the board. Don't do anything yet. Can you clear the board? Nice. Well, I'll prepare the rest. Would be interesting if all of you could think of a machine, a program, a virus, something of an artificial nature. Can also be a tool. You can think of a machine, like now we talked about an algorithm, but it can also be like a fridge, something that you interact with, or something like a Wi-Fi antenna that you've never touched. You can pick your favorites. And I'm going to make an area. So let's try to use the left corner to put all these machines. Surprisingly hard to write with like a touchpad.
It's better if the entity that you choose is active in some way.
Yeah. And once you found one, try to think of another. Let's do a couple, maybe 5 per person. Very quick, don't need to think too hard about it. I'm seeing a smart TV, Bluetooth USB module, sorry. A robot vacuum, yes. A chatbot.
An existing machine or an imaginary?
No, a real thing, something that exists, yeah. But anything. Maybe something you see, like in the end, even something that is not very smart, you know, like a lamp or a screwdriver. Those are all a synth. I see a mechanical clock. Very beautiful machine. Marktplatz. That's also a great one. So when you say Marktplatz, do you mean like the website or like a specific algorithm on this website? Because Marktplatz is a little bit like an ecosystem, but you could mean this as this multi-cell organism. A GPS satellite, that's also interesting. A lighter, a calculator, sound recorder. We can also think of things that are very useless or very rather for entertainment. Well, a UFO. It's good. Flying saucer. What is a stacker, those?
Multi-plug.
A multi-plug, yeah. Okay, yeah, those are, I mean, essential and ubiquitous. Yeah. Parking ticket giving self-driving car. It's already quite advanced. But when you think about it, like also all these vending machines of all sorts, like also the place where you pay for your parking, those are also like maybe more the plant world of machines because they're rooted, they can't move, they're always in one place. Like also the automats where you buy cola or whatever. Shoe cleaning machine. There was also an example in the Alibaba collection.
How would you define a machine then? Like
precisely, that's quite hard to define, right? Like also nowadays a lot of people talk about life forms as biomachines.
Mm-hmm.
I think already in machine there's a form of autonomy, that there's a task that is automated to a certain extent. Actually, usually we do make the difference between tools and machines. A tool needs to be actuated by somebody, while a machine has already some action of its own.
Yeah, but then a car is not a machine, or it can drive by itself.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be fully automated, but for example, when you turn the key of the car, then there's a whole automated process that starts the engine. This you don't do yourself, it's not. So you could say it that way, but okay, I think we have a lot of options. We can stop here.
Eike likes this assignment.
Sorry?
Eike likes this assignment.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, so good for that. And now maybe you can think, we don't have to do it for each of the proposition, but it's just a little thought experiment about these machines and think, what are its senses? So I'm going to take, for example, the GPS satellite. Well, it's clearly able to localize itself and other things in a given abstract space. So that's one way that it has senses. Like we can see things. The GPS satellite can localize.
And has a very great sense of time, especially that it's
A great sense of time, knows when, where, when. If we take the sound recorder, well, that definitely is very relatable to humans, that it can sense sound. Now, if we take a social media platform, that's a bit more difficult, but you could imagine it's sensitive to likes. It knows how much a certain thing has been interacted with by users or not. So you can really think of senses in this broad term. And another thing that is interesting to think at is what are ways that it can act, this machine. So not only how it perceives the environment, but also how it acts in the environment. So, for example, the social media platform is constantly curating content. So whenever a user connects, it presents a certain curated amount of content. If we take the GPS satellites, it is constantly communicating with other devices and sending information and also analyzing information. If we take a chatbot, clearly it produces also information that's not always very informative, but a photo booth can print on paper. If it's like this old photo booth in the train station where you print your picture, for example. And finally, we can also try to think, and now we're sliding a bit more in the fiction and a bit more in the imaginative, but what is the drive of this machine? When you construct a character in a fictional story, you always wonder, what are their motives, right? What is this inner intrinsic desire that pushes them to do things? For example, if we take a dog or a pig, let's keep with the pig. Pigs are very curious. They can have an inner drive to explore the environment around them, to smell all the things, to munch on all the things. But what is it for a GPS satellite? Maybe the drive for a GPS satellite is to be constantly connected with everything, to constantly keep track of everything else, to keep in control, for example. Maybe the drive for the photo booth is actually not to be working, to not have the least visitors, the least hard work. You don't know. So on and so forth. Maybe
you can start filling in the things as much as you want. In the bottom right, we put also a little post-it writing again the three things, so the senses, the actions, and the internal drives.
So you don't have to do everything, but we're going to give you 5 minutes to experiment with yourself to try to find out. Just pick some. It doesn't have to be neither your own object. You can pick somebody else's thing. So 5 minutes of thinking. something, for example, drive for the lighter, that it's a pyromaniac. Eike's headphones want to be the biggest object ever. The calculator wants to find solutions. All right, one more minute, so finish writing with your writing and then we'll go to the next one.
All right.
All right, so let's stop this for now. Now we have a nice little collection of strange objects, strange machines. And now let's focus on a different thing. We're switching to the right side of that separation I made. And let's think for a second, what are skills, what are capabilities that are specific to machines? So what machines can do that humans cannot do. I wrote, for example, the possibility to rotate something very fast with a motor, with which machines can drive with wheels, turning wheels. That's definitely something humans cannot do. And that's a very physical skill. Calculate very quickly, that's also one. It can also be more metaphorical, like take into a consideration an enormous amount of data at once. It can be hard skills, can be soft skills. It can also be simply physics, like a screwdriver, a metal screwdriver doesn't break as quickly as a human body. Can survive the cold. That's a very good one. Create fire. Well, I think humans have a good history of creating fire, you could say, no? I mean, eventually humans can, by creating tools and machines, survive the cold and create fire. So let's not try to like get too picky about things.
But the human body itself cannot.
Cannot, no, you cannot spit fire like a dragon. destroy nature. So I would also argue humans are very capable of that.
Track a person 24/7. That's a really great one.
That's very difficult to do for a human being, that's for sure. It's also interesting then to think like of the senses when we were describing it earlier, like we cannot see in infrared, for example, some machines can. We rewatched the Terminator series recently. It's pretty obvious. We have a limited range of producing sound. Somebody put a synthesizer on the other side of the board. A synthesizer can definitely produce much more sounds than the human voice can.
But then I can operate a synthesizer, right? So
yeah. So we try to take into account humans without the machines and the tools, right? Like the naked body on the deserted island. Naked and afraid human being. That kind of comparison. Find a way to classify everything. I also like that. Now also things of longevity, like dying, being born.
Also, feel free to put things together or to add to somebody else's thing.
Yeah, if you see an idea that you want to add to. I also see now that more tags are taking into consideration also programs. That's also important. So systems, like not necessarily physical machines, but also digital ones. What is also something you always wish you could do as a human being, but you can't, and a machine can do that. Like a superpower you can never have, but there is an object that can do it. Like work without food, that would be my ambition. Visualize music in beats. That's different. Travel at hyperspeed. What?
I saw a great one in the bottom, but I think it's
It disappeared. That's a shame.
What's up with this obsession with my headphones?
Well, it's a very practical
amazing,
example.
Like it's also very cold here, so I'm wearing like this hat, so everything looks bigger. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
It looks great, don't worry. I feel that Carla's headphones are very jealous of this attention, lack of attention. Clearly. We also, for example, here have where's the camera? We have a soldering iron capable of sensing temperature very precisely. Its own temperature. Well, we have a non-accurate sense of our own temperature, or non-quantitative, let's say. All right, I have the feeling that we reached the moment of stabilization, finish writing what you're writing. And then we're gonna move on to the next thing, which is the fun part, where everything's gonna go wild, which we call mix and match. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but we're gonna move to the bottom part of the board. And now we're gonna ask you to pick a machine. It doesn't have to be the one you wrote yourself. and to match it with something on the right, with a skill. So feel very free to, you can rewrite it or you can move the post-its, that's what you want. If somebody has taken a post-it that you want to use, you can duplicate it. You make another one with the same title on it. So you can use as many as you want. But for example, we have the synthesizer that can travel at hyperspeed. So we don't have to make anything that is logic. We just make something that sounds fun, something that, you know, evokes something to your imagination. We could also have, for example, the robot vacuum that can communicate over great distances. I see the sex movie booth that is inside of humans.
Wow.
That's already very interesting. So we're gonna give you maybe up to 10 minutes, and unless we have used everything, put a little music, and leave you to think. And please try the most outrageous ideas. The parking tickets that can rotate very fast.
feel free to make up new things or make up new skills or new machines. Ready,
All right, it looks like the conclusion is coming. So maybe you can finish the last combination you were making. And we're gonna switch back to a little example. Because now we have all these random ideas. It's a process we really like to use to, you know, create a lot of things, but how is this in any way very relevant, right? We're going to show you an example of an autonomous machine we worked on that we think is a good example in a way that it's not just the desire of making an autonomous machine, but by creating this machine, we're also trying to challenge a lot of set ideas and to show another option for society. So this machine is called SAM. It means Symbiotic Autonomous Machine. And it's basically, how do you call that in Dutch actually? A drink automaton? No. Well, you know, a vending machine. It's a vending machine that sells drinks to people. So its equivalent in the real world is the cola can vending machine. But what happens in this machine is inside of these big vats, what you see on the right, is a bacteria. So the living organism that is inside of the machine is fermenting basic ingredients and making it into a drink. It's been a few things, like there's been tries with kombucha and also water kefir. If you don't know what it is, it's like beer without the alcohol. So there's this living organism on the inside, and around it is this robot, mainly a computer, which you see on the left image, but also all sorts of pumps and motors and sensors. And this robot has several goals, but two primary goals. One is to take care of the bacteria, make sure that it survives, that the fermentation continues at a regular pace, so that the drink continues to be produced. And the other thing is that this robot interacts with human beings. So it sells the drink with, I have an image for that, I think. That's this little module, little payment module. Now it's very common. At the time it was just coming out, where people can pay. And so the money goes directly to the robot. So we worked with a law firm on very obscure and loopholes and everything. With the bank account of the machine can earn money. And with that, it's able to pay for its own costs. So for the water cost, for the electricity, it does use employees. It's not fully autonomous in terms of functioning. It still needs maintenance and this sort of things. And it also pays for taxes. at the same time. And all of that out of the money that it makes by selling the drink. So in that way, we wanted to rather work on the autonomy of this machine in an economical term. It doesn't do everything functionally, but economically, it nearly does everything for itself.
And also the definition of autonomous is quite wide, of course. Like we feel like we're autonomous humans, but without the supermarket, we also wouldn't know really what to do and what to eat every day. So we're still also reliant on other people. If we are dropped on this island, then life is very different than how we're living it right now. Yet still we act autonomously.
Yeah, so we really wanted to integrate this machine in human society and to integrate it from an economical perspective in nearly a similar way than a human adult. So you could consider that this machine on paper, economically, earns money, pays taxes as employee. It's the same as an adult human. Or at least that's, what we say to provoke a discussion. And it's exactly the same, you see. But of course, it was very important for us to build it in a way that doesn't really look human. I mean, now we make a little parallel with the button, but it was important to remember that this is really a machine. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have a sense of self. There's a lot of, when we talked about the senses earlier, a lot of senses it doesn't have. It doesn't see anything, for example. However, it can sense weight, for example, which we're not very good at. Like it can quantify how much weight is in each of the beds. So it's a very different experience, but we're showing you this example because, on our board, it could have been self-owned business that sells drink, vending machine, kind of thing. But what is interesting is to go further than that and also relate it to society. So it's a machine that owns itself. In the world where we live now, this is inexistent. This is even illegal, as a matter of fact. But it brings a lot of questions on how much space, how much rights we want to give to machines. So let's try to bring our little ideas to this next step. And for that, we would like you all to pick on the board your favorite idea. Like pick one of the mix and match. You don't have to make it too difficult for yourself. Just pick one you find fun or you find interesting. You cannot be two people picking the same thing. So now we have to fight with each other. So bring it to either maybe you can encircle it with a color. Like for example, I would take this one.
Okay, repeat the assignment real quick.
Oh yeah, sorry. You can choose one of your favorite combination, only one, and maybe you can encircle it with a color, like what I'm doing now. I chose something random, so if somebody is really attached to photometon that travels at hyperspeed, please let me know. And maybe write your name or the first letter of your name next to it, so we get a bit an idea of who's choosing what. Because we don't want two people to choose the same thing. All right, so now that everybody has a beautiful way to...
arrows.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now that we all have our own little thing, so I'm going to stick to a photometon that travels at hyperspeed as for the sake of example. It's a challenge. We have to wonder how does this entity interact with the rest of society or the rest of the world. So if I am a photometon, my primary directive is to take pictures of people. So people interact directly with me. That's already a good thing you can figure out for yourself. Are you directly an interface together with people? Like if you're a fridge timer, you maybe rather interface with the fridge than interface with the people directly. Decide that for yourself. If you're a lighter, you're directly in contact with people. But if you are a operating system, or if you are a UFO, you might not interact with people, maybe rather with aliens. So who are the actors that you interact with? And for example, in my case of the photometon, there's a very clear value exchange between me and my users. So I get paid to make pictures. Especially if we try to think about these objects in terms of autonomous things, then we can also think about the photometon earning the money directly for itself. We forget the honor.
So we take a moment to discuss the things.
Yeah, let's take a moment that you can think about it first. And what is very important is that you think, how does this machine survive? Imagine all of your machine don't have an owner. You don't have somebody to take care of yourself as the machine. So how do you survive? Do you make money? Who is giving you electricity? For example, the fridge timer. Maybe you are a part of the fridge. So the fridge provides you with electricity. But what do you provide the fridge in exchange? Or do you consider yourself one organ of the fridge? So the photometon, I get money directly from people. And I travel at hyperspeed. So maybe I can choose my customers. I can decide to travel towards the richest people and pop up in weddings, for example, pop up at birthday parties, pop up wherever I'm going to make the most profit. So we're giving you 5 minutes to think about it. So who are the people you interact with? What kind of value exchange, people or things, sorry. What kind of value exchange do you have with these things? And out of that, how do you survive? Yeah? Question? No?
You have to register.
Yeah. So maybe it's easier if you try to write it out in one sentence. I'm going to give you an example for the photometon. I am a photometon that sells picture to people. I use the money I make to get the incredible amount of electricity I need to travel at hyperspeed. To maintain this high electricity life, I must make a lot of money out of my photos. So I use my hyperspeed capabilities to pop up next to the wealthiest humans or next to the cheapest electricity areas and take advantage of these situations. So you can write it in a little sentence like this. It can be more sentences if you need to. some help? Yeah? Going well? I like what I'm reading.
It's pretty great.
Nice. Is everybody, I have the feeling, oh no, there's still somebody writing. Let's wait a little bit. When you are done, click on the somewhere in the black area so that we know that you're finished. Yeah, everybody's done? Okay, nice. So here's an example. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna add a few little details. I'm gonna write it for you in notes. How did I make the, whatever. I'm gonna write for you a few details you need to add. We're gonna add what materials are your machine made of? What are the dimensions of your machines? You don't have to be extremely precise, but it's just to give an order of scale. Is it a nanobot or is it the size of a human? You can approximate. And which habitat can you find it in? So for example, the UFO its habitat is in space. Well, you could say the fork lives in the kitchen drawer. So you can be creative with that. And if you want, you can also put your name as the creator of this machine. But you don't have to if you want to stay anonymous. So I've written each of these elements. It now is circled in pink and in blue, double circled.
Do I make a new square or add to the old one?
You can add, it's what you want. I'm adding it to the old one. You can see my example in the photometon area.
Sorry, I got lost in the last. what do we have to do? It's about the materials.
Yeah, it's so on the right of the board, you can see it's circled in pink and blue. The materials, the dimension, the habitat, and you can cite your name as a creator if you want to be credited for this machine. And you can be pretty open about it. For example, the photometon. It's a bit difficult to say which habitat it has because it travels everywhere constantly. So I just wrote it's a terrestrial habitat because it always rests on land. So you can be very vague about it, or you can be very precise, like the fork lives in the kitchen drawer, if you prefer. Right. So if you don't mind, I think it could be useful to migrate our clusters a bit lower so we have a bit more space. With the select pointer tool, you can also click and drag to select an entire area. I've put now my example a little bit lower. It's good if we leave a little bit of space because we're going to add things to it, to each one of them. And sorry, Eike, for your name. All right, so I think everybody has settled his or her idea. And now we're gonna do a little visualization. So usually when we are in an offline setting, it's a little bit easier. But maybe now you also have at your disposal all the trickeries and tools of a computer. So giving you an example, this thing, whatever. I have the photometal, right? So you could, if you want, look for images of the object that you selected. And you try to visualize this particular machine that you have in mind. So I have to make clear that this photometal travels at hyperspeed. What you could also do is make a drawing and then take a picture and place it in the thing. But what we want is to give people an idea of what does this machine look like. So if you feel more comfortable sketching, that's fine. If you feel more comfortable photoshopping something, that's also fine.
Also, you can assemble the in I'm not sure if you're on Windows or Apple, but in Windows you can type snipping tool, this thing, and then you can snip a new thing. Just copy this.
And you can also immediately in the thing draw over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you are ready, you can indeed drop the image.
When you paste it, it becomes enormous.
It's enormous, so please resize it and put it next to your thing. It's also sometimes a possibility that within the snipping thing that you have the possibility to create some drawings, like a hyperspeed movement. It's very clear. If you need specific help to give you some technical insights, ask us. If you know something that you'll be comfortable sketching with, all good. And if it is in any way difficult to drop the picture. At the bottom of the whiteboard, there's 3 dots where you can also add a file. So let's take a maximum 10 minutes to do this. Yeah, let's take maximum 10 minutes to do this. So this to be a fast stage. if you are needing any help also with the dropping the image on the board. If it's difficult, you can always drop it in the Zoom chat and we'll put it on the board. And you have 5 minutes left.
Oh shit.
All right, there's now 1 minute left, so whatever perfect image you're making, it is now time to either screenshot it or drop it on the board or drop it on the Zoom chat. Time is over. It's okay if it's not perfect. images, when they are pasted, they always start very big, but you can resize them. You click on the image on the bottom right, you will see 2 arrows in a little blue square, and with that you can resize. And then you can place the image next to your little description. So now what we're gonna do is you're gonna give a little presentation of your machine. So we're gonna go through each of the ideas, and maybe we can stop the sound for a second. Yeah, thanks. So we're gonna go through each of the ideas, starting with 𝘼𝙪𝙩𝙩𝙤𝙪. And what you can do is, if you want, you can just read what you wrote, like your description. Yeah, we're listening to you.
All right. So what I ended up with is a music visualization that can visualize sounds from parallel universes. And it all sounded super nice until I had to give it like characteristics and a way to speak, which was kind of difficult. So first of all, well, it can visualize unknown information. That's a good feature. That's awesome. Then I thought maybe it's going to be like the perfect thing for like hippies who want to like trip off into parallel universes. So it can maybe trade energy for trippy visuals. So that would be nice. It can blow the mind of users in exchange for being alive on their computer. So slowly, like some form of habitat starts to create. Then I thought, no, fuck that. So it's going to be only exclusive to Elon Musk. So he's like the only guy who has this. So he can like really be like this true alien on Earth, you know, like, and that way he will definitely savor this thing with his life because he's the only one who has it. There's no replica, so it's very unique. Yeah, of course, I ended up with some questions, and notably, how do you actually know if it's visualizing sound from different parallel universes? Because there's just no way of knowing that. So it
might be a scam, you mean?
Yeah, it can very easily be a scam. So I tried to give some characteristics. What it's something that lives on the disk space of his phone. It uses memory. It doesn't use much memory, but it's very good in giving parallel universes a visualization of sound and otherworldly awesomeness. It doesn't have a physical dimension; it's only electrons.
Nice.
I figured like the picture that should go with it is like a very smug Elon Musk showing off his 1998 smartphone with with parallel universes in the background. I thought it was a perfect symbolization of what makes him like very happy. So I think this is a good way that this piece of app can survive. I thought it was nice.
Nice.
So I have a question.
Yeah, that's allowed.
So for this creature, if Elon Musk would, you know, like he doesn't like it, but maybe one day he might die, you know, how will the app try to survive after that?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So I'm kind of hoping that it's so special to Elon that he'll trust it to like his most trusted hiree. So maybe if he gets kids, he'll trust to his kid, or maybe his wife, or maybe I don't know, maybe the next in line at Tesla. I don't know who's precious to him, but this will be such a special thing, so incomprehensible to give it a value. It's like invaluable by any means. So yeah, he'll cherish it with everything he has. It might even be his downfall, you know. Like
you never know. Does anybody has a question for 𝘼𝙪𝙩𝙩𝙩 on this machine, autonomous machine? What I really like about it is that from this you can really start thinking, like what we were saying about the watermelons earlier, that maybe they are taking advantage of us. And in the end, apps, we provide them with a habitat without, sometimes we download the app and we never use it. without sometimes getting anything in return. We just provide them with a space and a place to harvest data and everything they need.
Also,
So that's your idea opens up this different view on, right?
Also, actually, most of the other machines in the bestiary, they have a very broad connection to humanity, or either they work for a big group of people or for a bigger goal, like the Voyager works for space exploration as a bigger concept. But it's also interesting that this creature, this autonomous machine, has this very one-on-one relationship.
With only one person.
Yeah, exactly. It tries to use that as a strategy to live on. That by being so invaluable to this one person, there will be a very one-on-one care as well.
Yeah,
Nice.
and he's also a very powerful person as well, so he has the means to make it survive.
Exactly. So, Eike.
Yes, I have a little bit the similar experience as Jasper. I thought it was a fun pick to do. I was really like, okay, so what do I do with this?
It's always like that.
Well, yeah, basically I changed my mind while Jasper giving this presentation, and maybe I will change my text later on this as well. I think this is more like a sort of like a stimulating plugin for your brain, which will help you find the right kind of partner. I think a little bit like this. Well, what I wrote is like it's a sex movie booth that helps people to reproduce in return. The movies will be transmitted to another brain, and then the movies well, the humans are being tricked into giving their sperm. So sort of a sex. I don't know where I was going with this.
That could be interesting, you know, like I always think about, you know, like the way that we milk cows and like we take advantage of a lot of other animal body fluid. Like in the end, why not another entity exploiting us in a similar way?
I like it. Thank you for saving this presentation.
Is there any other question for Eike?
Okay.
There is in the bestiary another machine that is similar to that. I don't really remember how it worked, to be honest, but the goal of the machine was not to pleasure the humans, but that the humans pleasure it.
Okay.
That was also an interesting, I don't remember what was the value exchange, but it was a nice way to turn it around, right? That it's not always the machine doing something for the people, but that to be the other way around.
Okay, that would be cool.
Yeah, just an example. So, yeah.
There were no other. I thought somebody was.
Yeah, there was a question, sir.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, please, sir.
So, would you be open for interaction with this machine?
Ooh, this is nice. Well, I think it depends on the context of this, where this would happen. In my mind, this was a post-apocalyptic scenario in which this kind of machine would be necessary. So I'm gonna go very diplomatically and say, like, let's talk about it later.
But why is it post-apocalyptic? I mean,
well, it was all about a little bit, yeah. Like I said, it was a little bit like a robot which would like harvest sperm. So it was a little bit like I thought more like a robot overlord who would harvest sperm for some reason or another.
A little bit like the Matrix, or.
Yes, exactly. Or a little bit like a really bad episode of Futurama. I don't know.
Would this be your ultimate form, Eike?
Harvesting sperm bot.
What a compliment, yes.
Yes, Jasper, you get me.
Nice. Let's go to the next one. Photomaton, we already talked about it extensively. So let's talk. This is Guy's machine?
It's my.
Oh, it's yours. Sorry, Carla. Okay, tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm going to read because I don't even know what I wrote. So, yeah, I'm a mechanical clock that delivers time to the same person living in different dimensions. So we assume that I'm a person, but I'm living, in different dimensions. Now I have the power to transfer hours from one dimension to another. Humans need me because in an hyper-productive dimension, just one of them, they need me to bring them extra time. And while I offer them time, they give me Duracell batteries. So I was thinking that maybe, I mean, like in this way, the clock kind of has the agency to create like different notions of time, no? And in this sense, it's kind of an active agent in society. And maybe the fact of the human giving the clock Duracell batteries, it's kind of, we could start trying to live without technological devices and feeding the clock to get more time. I don't know for what.
Nice.
And yeah, there are more things. The habitat of this clock is inside the OA Nob Hill House. It's this series in which I based the character, like the series of the OA,
Nice.
in which they can travel into different dimensions. And yeah, there are some things that don't make sense, but I think there's something.
It doesn't matter. What I really like about it is the how essential is the exchange. Like none of the parties can live without the other. Like the clock will die without power, and the people constantly need more time. And also when they run out of time, they're dead, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very good parallel that they really extremely need each other. Like the symbiosis is super dependent in this case.
Also wondering if through this machine, is it sort of creating also sort of a more fair distribution of work throughout all the different dimensions? That maybe,
Or more unfair, you know, that in one dimension they have a lot of batteries, so they have a lot of time, and in another dimension they're very poor in battery, so they live 1 minute and then they're they sell all their time away to the clock overlord. Questions from anybody else?
So if I have a bunch of Duracell batteries, I would have like infinite time?
Yeah, but it's true. But then, like, what do you need the time for also? I think it would really like make us question, what do we do with our time?
Good question, yeah.
I'm also wondering...
I think this is the perfect machine for Arvid and Marie, because they're always running out of time, and this is their dream machine. I think like create extra hours in a day. This is super.
I'm just wondering.
I would be broke.
I'm just wondering what happens if it gets Lidl batteries instead of Duracell.
Lesser quality battery.
Yeah, maybe then the clock would weight more, like more batteries, so it would change its shape as well. I don't know.
The whole economics of batteries.
Maybe you get a less linear hour. That could be.
Oh yeah, an hour that doesn't really make sense.
Yes.
Could be. That would be interesting. Or that suddenly it kind of stops for 1 day and then you need to charge it again, but then the notion of time has completely gone fucked up.
You get the quality that you provide. Another proposal. Guy, where are you? Oh yeah, on the top right. I'm really impressed by the level of Photoshop. Also very cool drawing of 𝘼𝙪𝙩𝙤𝙤𝙤 because it was immediately pink, which fits the topic really well, but these Photoshops are really great, guys. All right, so Guy, do you want to tell us about your creation?
I'm not really sure what it means, but I will read. I track my human user 24/7 and sell the data. So I kind of record shifts in consumption depending on temperature. And I time the fridge changing temperatures to adapt to extreme weather changes and provide my users space for climatic relief. So I think that what it means is I want my user to just stay inside the fridge and continue to consume whatever climatic changes happen outside, and I kind of record it and deliver the data to whoever is in charge of the climatic changes. Or something like that.
Nice. That feels very real to me. Like I expect a lot of devices to already behave like that with me. You know, like my whatever my Instagram app, you know, is probably not making any money out of me, but a lot of money out of my data. You know.
Yeah.
So it feels very like a real thing that is. It's a bit less common in objects, but I'm pretty sure that smart fridges and smart toasters and whatever also really sell data in the same way apps do.
I'm really curious what kind of what can you do with this data also?
Yeah, is it actually valuable in any sort of way? Like, can people make sense out of this? Nice.
What does along the equator mean? Does it live along the equator? Is that its habitat?
Yeah, like it's just like on the where the climate changes are the most, it will be most.
Wow, nice.
Nice. Great. Well, all right. Very good ideas, everybody.
The time is running out.
Time is running out, so we're gonna wrap up. We don't have a magic clock to sell batteries to get more time. So unfortunately,
you can take a little look at the whole thing.
Yeah, feel free to save whatever you want out of this. We're gonna keep it on for like a couple hours after the workshop if you want to like take pictures or whatever. Yeah, so this was the final ideas. That's usually how we always carried the workshops. And then after that, we compile a couple of ideas. We have a person who makes a render out of the visualization of the people. We wanted the archive to have a bit of consistency because as we've all seen when we make all those images, the difference in consistency can be hard for people to follow from one entry to the other. And we also had a person extend the descriptions to like a full sci-fi story, trying to stay true to the description. But sometimes some interesting interpretation happened between the writer, like the original creator of the idea and the writer. But we thought that was for the better to have this strange interpretations. Mm-hmm. So we just wanted to show you a couple of entries as a conclusion. I thought it's really interesting, this way of exploring what autonomous machines can be, especially in a non-profit directed way. There's of course a lot of ideas that come back and that are very like related to a human need. For example, this machine, I suck plastic for dollars, but very funny title, but actually very common idea that we got in the workshops of a machine that harvests plastic waste in the ocean, or well, in the ocean in this case, and use that as a way to make a living. So either recycles it or use it for fuel or something like that. And that's also characteristic of this is something we need, right? But it's also to clean up the plastic. But it's also interesting that the machine is taking advantage of our waste, I thought. And then also example that goes really much more in the wild fiction is one of the very first, I think the very first workshop we ever did. And this was a group of like 2 girls, like super young, like 17 or something. They looked very like naive and innocent and everything. But they came up with the whale hunter. So this is a machine that disguises itself, well, looks like a whale, makes the sound of a whale, and tries to attract whale hunters. When a whale hunter boat comes close to this machine, the machine will attack and siphon the fuel out of the boat. So the machine runs on the same fuel as the boat.
And since the whale hunters are doing this illegally, they have no way of making repercussions against this machine. So it operates in this legal loophole.
Nobody
of fighting criminals.
Yeah, and so probably the whale hunters will die and drown because their boat is defunct. So quite a wild ride, this one machine. But interesting fiction, and also interesting idea that in this morality between like what we think is good and what we think is bad. Some machines can, you know, find a way to survive. So that's a few examples, and I think what you guys did today was really like a great addition to this, and that was also a way to show you how creative process, and whenever it's useful to you, you can try, you know, to use it again, like divide things in categories, come up with a lot of things in each category, and just mash it up completely with hyper speed in the photometric. That's something we use often to refresh what we're thinking about, try to see things from other perspectives. So we hope that can be useful to you in the future, or that you just had fun and had a good time. So thanks a lot. Let us know if you have any feedback to us. Write us something. Our emails on our website. And yeah, continue to enjoy the Overkill Festival. There's a concert, I think, that's starting right now, so I wouldn't miss that. Okay, I think we're gonna sign off then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Same.